Welcome to the Historical Interface Museum. You have selected
Britain, 1750 to 1900. Expansion, trade, and industry.
all evidence loaded and ready for investigation.
Expansion, trade and what?
Industry.
That sounds really boring. I think I'll go.
Don't be too hasty, Melanie. Look at this. The galleries are heaving with evidence. Pounding machines. Pitiful tales of urban squalor. Britain, the first industrial nation.
So what?
There's so much going on, so many great changes, and you can't ignore it because it shaped the society we live in today.
Big deal.
It is a big deal.
Input data to Visor. 1750. Britain, fast asleep. Population, 9 million. And believe you me, life was slow. Most worked on the land, lived in villages. A galloping horse was the fastest form of transport. It took 2 whole days to get from London to Bristol, 4 to Manchester, 7 to Edinburgh. Exports stood at just £4 million, and no wonder there were no factories. What little industry there was took place in people's own homes. 100 years passes. Britain awakes. The greatest industrial nation in the world. Exports over £1 billion. We left them standing. 2/3 of the world's cotton goods. 2/5 of its hardware. There were 6,000 miles of railway. You could travel to Bristol in 3 hours. Manchester in 6. Edinburgh in 12. And of the 28 million British people, yes, they've been breeding fast. More than half lived in the new industrial towns and the sensation of the age, cities. Visor sequence ended.
All right, you win. I'll stay.
Sounds good, huh?
Where do I start?
Use your control glove.
Probe function. Engine icons loading. Step data update. Overload.
Oh, wicked.
Might I suggest one at a time? Select a type of evidence. Artifacts. Texts. Or,
Gallery reform.
explore our numerous galleries for things of interest. Try animating our actors. That's the reconstruction button projected in front of you.
Got it.
Animate actor.
Canal Barge Woman, 1840. But I'd go.
Okay, back to start.
Change vector.
Load the options, curator.
Options loading, Melanie.
I'll take that one, please.
First industrial nation selected.
Question. What changed? Why? When?
81.
Advised investigation dates. 1750 to 1850.
All right. I'll start with that painting.
Painting to Visor.
What's this?
An industrial city circa 1850.
Ugh.
Contrast. Painting through. Britain, 1750.
Better without all those smoky chimneys. I'll have a text.
I cannot but remember with some satisfaction that having 2 foreign gentlemen with me, how they were surprised at the beauty of the countryside, and how they looked at one another, and then again looking around every way in a kind of wonder. One of them said to the other that England was not like other countries, but it was all a planted garden. They had...
End text.
Why did you interrupt? Defoe's Tour of Britain is the classic text for describing Britain in this period.
I don't want planted gardens. I want to know what people were like.
Then select reconstruction.
Okay.
Animate actor.
Thomas Jukes, the firstborn of Arthur Jukes, was a pugnacious, forward person who...
Who's this?
Richard Gough, a gossipy local historian who wrote about his parish in Shropshire. It's a bit early, 1701. You don't mind, do you?
No.
who, scorning propriety, was passing familiar with the best in the parish. His dexterity at bowling...
What's he on about?
If you don't understand old-fashioned language, might I suggest you select all texts to be given in modern English?
Okay.
Adaptation selected.
Thomas Jukes mixed with his betters. He was a great bowler, and often played with Sir Humphrey Lee at a bowling green on Haremere Heath, and he'd show no more respect to Sir Humphrey than if he'd been a ploughboy. He'd tell him, "You cheat," and sometimes throw a ball at his head, and they'd part in anger. But within a few days, Sir Humphrey would take Jukes with him to play bowls again, and if they didn't fall out, would take him home afterwards and get him drunk. I often heard the two of them were so drunk.
Why is it such a big deal if they play bowls together?
Society then was much more ordered than it is today. Everyone knew each other, and people knew their place, or were meant to. Even where you sat in church mattered. The better the pew, the more important you were.
I'll take a probe.
Probe selected.
Oops.
You are in control.
Oh, sorry. Where's this?
All Saints Church in Shorthampton, Oxfordshire. It's about 800 years old, but the furnishings are from the 18th century.
So where would the poor people sit?
At the back of the church.
Actor engage.
After they'd made the pews, there were a few waste planks left over, so Evans Jones, the carpenter, knocked up these. They're for the servants at Balderton Hall.
Not very comfy. Fast forward.
For those a bit better off, pews like these. But if you could afford a little more privacy, look to your left. An enclosed box pew, comfortable and totally private.
This is Mr. Hamner's. He insists on the best view of the minister.
It's all so snobby.
That's the way society was. Rich and poor didn't mix.
So, who are the rich?
Their wealth, status and power came from the ownership of land.
Rich to Visor.
Give me a text.
We breakfast between 10 and 11. We have an immense table. After breakfast, Mr. Scott, the Duke's chaplain, reads a few short prayers, and we then go on as we like. We have a back room for reading, a billiard room, a print room, a drawing room, and whole suites of rooms, not forgetting the music room. There are all sorts of amusements. The gentlemen are out hunting and shooting all the morning. We dine at 4:30 or 5, later to tea, and then to cards about 9, play till supper time. It is pretty late by the time we go to bed.
Oh, lush.
As long as you were one of the lucky few.
Contrast.
What about living here?
No thanks.
Take a look around.
All right.
Lights were made from dipping rushes in bacon fat. One room to live, cook, eat in. They made their own clothes and their own furniture. If they needed a jug, a cooking pot, or some lace, they'd have to walk into the nearest town on market day.
Right.
As many as 10 people might have slept through here.
That's all of it.
It's what life was like for most people.
But they had so little.
Just enough to scrape by.
Text to Visor.
Their ploughed land gives them straw to thatch their cottage and to feed their cow in winter. Also wheat and barley for bread, and in many places beans or peas to feed a pig or two. The pigs are for meat, and the cow gives a breakfast and supper of milk 9 or 10 months in the year. Work is hard, up at dawn and bed at sundown. Children have to help as soon as they are strong enough to hold a broom or carry timber.
Right. 1750, I've sussed it. The rich owned the land and the poor worked on it.
It's not that simple. Some places were already more specialized.
Show me.
Manufacturing. Data input.
Belfast, linens. Fife, coal. Glasgow, linen, muslins,
That
and...
one.
Selection. Glasgow.
They make cloth so fine that great quantities of them are sent into England and sold there at a good price. They are generally striped and are very much used for aprons by the ladies and sometimes in headcloths by the poorer women.
Newcastle, coal and glass. Lancashire, fustians and soap. Halifax, woolens.
There are an infinite number of workmen's cottages. Men, women, and children, some hardly above 4 years old, are busy carding and spinning, some at the dye vat, some at the loom, so that all can gain their bread.
Sheffield, cutlery and nails.
Rapid data. Derbyshire, Leicester, and Knott, Stock, Stoke, Pottery, Kidderminster, Cork, Whit.
All right, I get the idea there was lots of industry, but I don't understand. I thought the whole point was that there wasn't any industry.
The word industry then just meant hard work. The term for making goods was manufacture, from the Latin, making goods by hand.
By hand?
Using muscle power, as opposed to machine.
Don't understand this.
All right, take cotton.
Why?
Why take cotton? Because cotton was the first, finest, and fastest growing factory-based industry in the world. Look. The humble spinning wheel. In 1700, it took one woman 1 day to spin enough cotton yarn for only 1/2 meter of woven cloth. In the same time, a weaver could produce 3.5 meters of cloth. So, you want to spin faster? Cue the inventors.
Rapid data. Kay's Flying Shuttle, 1733. Daniel Watt, 1745. R. Green Spinning, 1760. Arkwright's Water, 17...
Till by, say, 1830, using spinning mules, one operator could produce 3,500 times more in a day than that spinning wheel in 1700. And one weaver, operating 4 machines, could produce 200 meters of finished cloth. That's 60 times more than before. By now, all the important processes in the cotton industry, spinning, weaving, carding, printing, dyeing, folding, ginning, and propping, were done by machines!
Turn it down! They're amazing. So that's what caused the changes, yeah? Muscles to machines.
Not quite.
Causes, industrial change.
All right. That one.
Power, selected. Gallery reform, power.
Harness a power source and there's no stopping you. 1 machine, 2, 4, 100, and that lot won't fit in your front room, so factories are born. Make a selection. Wind, water, steam.
Yeah, that one.
Steam to visor.
Steam engines represent at the present time the power of 300,000 horses, or of 2 million men, strong and well fitted for labor, who otherwise would have to work day and night without interruption or sleep. Steam engines create a vast demand for fuel, and while they lend their powerful arms to drain the pits and to raise the coals, they create employment for thousands of miners and engineers, and lead to the construction of canals and railways. It is by iron fingers, teeth, and wheels, moving with exhaustless energy and devouring speed, that the cotton is opened, cleaned, spread, carded, drawn, roved, spun, wound, warped, dressed, and woven. All the machines are moving at once, and all derive their motion from the mighty engine. Output soars.
Hold on. Look, I understand we've got machines and steam and people making more, but so what?
Never before had there been huge buildings in which hundreds of people worked regular hours tending machines.
Yeah?
Factories not only changed the way people worked, they changed their whole way of life. They moved from their villages into towns and cities. Thousands of houses were built. In 1851, for the first time in history, more than half the population of Britain was urban.
Okay, I'll have another text.
Text selected.
As we are looking around us in astonishment, our coach rolls towards the valley. The further we go, the denser are the houses collected along the roadside. Round about, all the valleys appear to be steeped in flames. We hear a hissing and a rattling when we rush past the windows of the factories. The sun darkens as if a cloud has enveloped it. Suddenly it is evening on a bright day. Then the hooves of our horses beat upon the pavement of the street, and we have reached the foot of a hill. We stop in the dark alleyways of a dirty, evil-smelling town.
It's gross. What a change.
It didn't happen everywhere. It was confined to the new industrial regions. For everyone else, life carried on much as before.
And were they still rich and poor?
Select a reconstruction.
Okay.
Player engaging. Active screen. Actor engage.
Even in death, society is divided. In our city cemeteries, the poor are buried in mass graves, whilst the rich outdo each other with their fancy tombs. Come the last judgment, no doubt the first-class corpses will be first into heaven. The poorer workers live in small houses in narrow streets, all joined and jammed together, to save space for the landlords. They shop at the smallest shops. They drink in public houses. They frequent pawn shops. They get their music in hideous singing rooms. They sit in the gallery at the theatre. They have no books, no church, no art.
What about the rich?
Oh, there were rich, all right. The big landowners were still there, but they'd been joined by a new breed, the rich mill owners, who built themselves mansions in the new Gothic style.
They drink in the grand hotels, occupy the boxes at the theatre, and the front seats at the best concerts. They have cushioned seats nearest the pulpit in church, have bookcases, wine cellars, private carriages.
They often started out poor, but they'd risked their money on the new machines, employed hundreds of workers in their factories. Those that succeeded made a fortune and demanded a say in the running of the country.
So nothing's really changed? Still rich and poor?
Caution. Player rotate left.
The big change from 1750. Still a few at the top, but not so many at the bottom. There was a huge growth in the number of people in the middle of society.
Who were they?
The middle class.
Visuals to visor.
Another text.
It is one of the great beauties of our system that a working man, with a little hard work and good behaviour, may improve his way of life and achieve a higher status in society.
As industry expanded, more and more people were needed. Clerks and office workers to keep the paperwork under control, under-managers to keep business going, shopkeepers, station masters, salespeople, many of them becoming better off as a result.
All right, give me a middle-class house.
They live in pleasant streets, but with few trees. Drink their beer in the smaller hotels. Buy a newspaper or two. Have a few cheap pictures on their walls. The inevitable oil portrait of the head of the family and his wife.
And in all of these, and 100 other little ways, the new middle classes made their position clear. Below the rich landowners and industrialists, but above those who earned their daily bread through manual labor. So, what changed? Why? When?